I want to talk about proposed, there are hate speech laws proposed, and some of the most craziest parts of them. But I don't agree with any hate speech laws because what is like the definition of hate? Who can define it? So if one person's hate is another person's love. You could say that because it depends on the situation and the person and the perspective and the context. And I just when I look at this, it just looks like it's from another planet. This bill, it would be the most tyrannical hate speech bill in the Western world if it comes into fruition, and it is. It's after being voted again up through the Dáil and by the ministers, yeah, by a majority, by a big majority, 114 or something like that, or 14 against, but a huge majority, and it's going up to the Shannon now, and all they can do is try and amend it. And there's people all over the world that are speaking out saying how crazy this is. Donald Trump Jr. Tweeted about it yesterday. He retweeted Keith Wood's tweet and said, it's insane what is happening to the free world. Elon Musk tweeted to the Twitter page Freedom of Speech Ireland, or Freedom of Expression, and he said this is an attack on freedom of expression. So these are people that are intelligent people, and they can see the problems that this would cause. Here's the tweet from Elon. The page is called Free Speech Ireland on Twitter and on Telegram. But he says massive attack on freedom of speech. Massive, if it goes through. Well, it is going through, but I mean, it goes through in its current form. And Helen McEntee at the time, I said this in a post, and I meant it. She had an army of NGOs asking her to do this, and she also had public consultations, and there was a lot of people that said no, we don't want this. More people are against this than for it, absolutely, by a country mile. There's way more people against this because they can see how flawed it is. And she was probably under pressure. I'm thinking at that time, she probably said, "Yeah, give me a sign and just get away from me." And I don't know. Look, I'm half jesting, but at the same time, it's true. Somebody that's in that job, Minister for Justice, it's the most powerful position in Ireland apart from the Taoiseach, the Taoiseach, and they say Minister for Finance, but Minister for Finance and Justice are just as important. So, I don't think somebody should be in that job that's in their early 30s or mid 30s. And it's somebody that has a lot of life experiences, that has seen and understands the way things can work out and can work out different ways, and understands history, and not when they're going through parts of their life where they're under pressure. You know what I mean? So, I know she took maternity leave off. I know that, but I'm just saying I don't know. It's like it wasn't thought through when I look at it. That's the feeling I get. And it destroys civil liberties. It destroys one of the foundational principles of law in the Western world, which is the presumption of innocence. It tries to attack that by saying that the onus will be on the person that's accused to prove that they were innocent. There's a part of the law that says if you have hateful content, which is another thing that's a problem. Hate, like, who defines that? You can't define that. That's up to a person, how they feel about something, but you can't tell how they feel. So it says that if you have material that is hateful and they know that, I don't know how they would know that. Is this encouraging people to tell on other people? Is that why Paul Murphy was worried that someone would say, "Oh, you have a copy of, I don't know, some documentary or something, maybe the greatest story never told"? Imagine that, or something. And it was just to research these things, but you end up getting done for it. And that's what would happen eventually down the line. I think these lads are in government now. They just want to be able to maybe try and attack or try and subdue, or else try and just intimidate the people that are criticising them, or that are criticising the government, or criticising anything, by using all these labels that you can't talk about anything. They call them immutable characteristics. So they're talking about, they say travelers, they say people with disabilities, they say people that are different colors to us. All of these things are immutable characteristics. Every person in the world has immutable characteristics. This doesn't make sense at all. This won't stand up in a court. Like, if somebody calls me a lanky prick, is that a hate crime? Because that's immutable. You know what I mean? I have immutable characteristics that I like, tall or whatever, and somebody else might have immutable characteristics that they're small. If you call someone a midget, or if you Where does the line be drawn? Is it just these people that they talk about, like the blacks, the gays, the whatever, anything that's not really a European person is what they mean. But eventually that list will be added onto and added onto more and more. And it keeps getting added onto actually where it comes from, which is the United States, where all this comes from. It's from the NGOs over there, the really far left liberal NGOs. This law is like it's actually worse than applying YouTube's kind of hate speech policies. This is to a website, a very biased left wing website, right? Applying their hate speech policies to the real life. And this is something I said actually a few years ago. I said, imagine that. I think that's what they want to do eventually, is try and have the YouTube terms of service as your literal laws of the land, which is unbelievable. It just shows how much the corporations are ruling everything. And look, I don't know who behind the scenes has pulled the strings, you know what I mean? The envelopes and stuff to make this happen. But I can just guess, and I guarantee I wouldn't be too far wrong. But the thing is about immutable characteristics is there's no end to immutable characteristics. Everyone is unique in some way, in some aspect, and that can be sneered or jeered. And if somebody sneers or jeers that, does that mean that that's hate? And how do you define what that hate is? Like, does that mean that that person had hate in their heart? And what if they're saying it in a laughy, jokey way? Is that still hate? This is all up in the air, and these are all problems with this. And this will all come out when, as soon as a court case happens and a precedent is set, or not set, or some ridiculous thing happens, because I think the government and the people that are for this are going to end up looking silly about this. I think they will. And another thing is, they say that it has to refine and update the incitement to hatred laws that are there since 1989. But those laws are actually sufficient because they were able to use those laws only recently, didn't they? I'm talking about from their perspective. Now, I'm not saying I agree with this or anything. I'm not saying my opinion, but didn't they charge Graham Carey with those laws, and they were able to take him off the internet and take him out of everything to do with activism, and they were using the 1989 incitement to hatred law to do that. So why does it need to be updated? So in other words, what you're saying is people that aren't even doing that, which is protesting and having, a bit of, you're hyped up and he talks a lot or whatever. So even people that don't even do that have to be prosecuted, is what they're trying to say with these laws, by saying they have to refine them and everything and update them. So they'll have to keep updating them. This is what I'm saying to you. They will keep updating them. They will keep saying, oh, well, now there's another immutable characteristic, or there's a new group that's a victim group. Maybe not a new group, but a new aspect of a group. So they're going to try and make it in a way that you can't even deny historical events if you want. Like, why would anyone want to make that illegal? And anyways, was there people doing that? I don't think there was people doing that. So that just gives you an idea of some of the influences that have made this happen. But I don't think people were doing that anyways to such an extent where you would need to do that. But another thing is, it tramples over your right to a fair trial. Excuse me. Freedom of expression, which is in the Constitution, which is the law of the land. Freedom of expression. We have freedom of expression. Now, another thing it tramples over is your right to privacy. It takes away your right to privacy. If they can go in and check your hard drive and stuff like that, it is absolute tyranny. They didn't have laws like that. I know they had no hard drives, but even in communist Russia, I don't think they came in and were checking people's bookshelves. Maybe if it was someone that was, I don't know, but it's on that sort of a level, what they're talking about here. And in Ireland, Ireland is all in with the United Nations as well. Like, I've said that before, those exact words, but we are, like, as in, we agree with everything the United Nations puts forth. No questions asked. Like, and this is, well, I have this up because I mentioned this already. The presumption of innocence, it's a legal principle that every person accused of a crime is considered innocent until they're proven guilty. And that's so important, because if it's not that way, it's open to being abused to the last. And it says under the presumption of innocence, the legal burden of proof is thus on the prosecution, which must present compelling evidence to the trier of fact, a judge or a jury. Yeah. Normal common sense, or common law was anyways before Helen McEntee. But let's have a look here. And yeah, they wanted to bring it in before Helen McEntee was there, but she did it, and now she's not even Minister for Justice anymore. It's a great way they can just put a little puppet in and do a really dirty job on their own people. Like, people that have brought these laws in, I think this is the most tyrannical thing that an Irish government has ever done to its own people, or maybe any government that's in the modern living memory in the West, like definitely in Western Europe, I think, because of that part of it where you have to be you have to prove your innocence. You're guilty until you prove your innocence. That's a part of the actual thing. But um, here's it tramples on this as well. The United Nations Article 19 on freedom of expression, the Declaration of Human Rights. It says everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. That's from the United Nations, and that is something that I think is reasonable and it should be upheld. Why did they write in the first place? Why does these people think that they can come along and undo centuries of work that has been put into giving people these rights, and not just the work to write up the laws, but the work to actually get these rights as people, 800 years and all that of tyranny and oppression, and then also to actually get these laws to become so modern that we have laws where we understand that the best ideas rise to the top and bad ideas will just sink to the bottom. And that's the way meritocracies work. We don't need the state nannying and interfering with that process. That happens naturally. If it takes a couple of years or whatever, but it will happen. That happens. So it's gone against the United Nations. It's gone against some of the foundational principles of Western law, of all law, and of common sense and decency and reasonableness. So is yeah, I said I'd put up that part where it shows the. It's handy here because it's on the Keith Woods tweet. Just that part of the law that shows this the most radical part, I think, where it says here. It says, right, offense of preparing or possessing material likely to incite violence or hatred against persons on account of their protected characteristics. Now, here's the thing, right? How can you say that this was going to cause violence or hatred? And define that as well while you're at it in the court. But how can you say that it was going to cause that if it hasn't caused it, if it didn't happen? Now, if it happens, that's different. But like this is covered already in the 1989 law. But it's saying here, like, but also a subject who, or a person who prepares or possesses material that is likely to incite violence or hatred against a person or group of persons account of their protected characteristics. Those characteristics will keep getting added onto. And also, the person shall be presumed, until the contrary is proved, to have been in possession of the material in convention of the subsection 1. So, yeah, that's what that means, that it will be presumed until you prove the opposite, that this material was in your possession because you wanted to do this, incite violence or hatred against persons or groups because of these characteristics. And it doesn't include if somebody says, oh, you're a freckly red-headed, I don't know, anything. You're a freckly red-headed asshole, or you're a lanky blue-eyed asshole, or it's just these characteristics that are talking about here, these characteristics, even though every person in the world has immutable, unique characteristics. It's so one-sided. I don't know why more people aren't even calling it out, even people that would be classed as some of these, in inverted commas, victims, because, eventually it depends who's there. The way I see it is these lads that are there now are very tyrannical, and they would probably use this to shut up or to stop people that they disagree with. But they don't care once they're out of government. They don't care what happens then, because they're not going to be done for it. They'll be living in their house up on the hill looking at all the peasants who have to suffer under the laws that these people created. But some other people could get in there after that and start to do terrible things with these, even if the people that are there now don't. And they mightn't stop it. It could get worse. And eventually it'll come around and they could be used to shut up even the people who shouted to bring them in the first place. That's what could happen, logically. Think about it. I don't know if you can think about it that much, because people seem to just react to surface level stimulus these days. They don't think deeply about anything. And I didn't have to think too deeply just to come up with these few points, but I think they're the most important ones, really. What else is there except it's absolute tyranny and it's absolute radical extremism. That's what it is, to bring it into anything that they call a liberal democracy. That's what they call these liberal democracies. Well, this absolutely undoes that. And people will be going around and they won't know what to be able to say about anything, especially when it comes to elections or politics. And it'll be like walking on eggshells. It's a terrible thing to have to create that atmosphere for people. They already have enough stress after 2 years of the last thing that happened, the tyranny from the last 2 or 3 years, and all of the fallout from that. Um, Anyways, we'll see what happens in time. They're my points on it for now. And thanks for listening. You can share this if you want, folks, and please do if you can. And take care.